Welcome back to our series on Microsoft Entra ID. I'm Kazim from Nigeria, and I'm not alone. I've got Adnan Hendricks with me all the way from the Netherlands. Hi, Adnan.
Hi, Kazim. Great to be back talking about Microsoft Entra.
Today, we're going to be diving into the protection features of Microsoft Entra. All right, let's kick things off with some of the various methods of securing identities in Microsoft Entra. Adnan, do you mind to walk us through the options that we have available?
Well, let me just share my screen and jump into my demo mode, and then I can talk and show as we go along. So we have a number of different options to enable security with our identities for identity access and authentication. We can use the intelligence of Microsoft using identity protection. And then there's the manual way we can configure our own set of rules as to how we allow access to the organization. So with identity protection, we can create policies where the intelligence evaluates the authentication, and then it can enable using intelligence, machine learning, or whether it's a valid authentication or not. So what this could be when a user sign in, it will just go and evaluate and see if it really is the user. And we can use that intelligence by Microsoft by having the right licensing. So we need a premium P2 licensing to get that functionality. And then we can use it by creating a user risk policy or sign-in risk policy. And the nice ways in which we can do it, I've already set it up for me, is that you specify which users you want to evaluate, and then you specify at what level of risk do you want the controls to be enforced. So I've set it to high for my user risk policy. And then once the intelligence finds a high risk sign-in, I have a number of options. So I can either block the access, or I can still allow access because it might be a false positive, because we all know those things happen. And then I can enable that the next time the user would be required to change their password, because it might be that somebody's found out the password right. And then I will just enforce it. The same thing with the sign-in risk policy. So here, when a user signs in, once again, you can specify which users, and this is where you can specify different levels. So from low and above, medium and above, or high. So this is where I usually set it to medium, because even though it might not be a high risk, a medium might still be some guy trying to, hack our employees. The controls that I do set, once again, also making sure, just in case there's a false positive, is the allow access, and definitely require multi-factor authentication, just in case an easy user trying to sign in from some unknown location that he hasn't done that before. So that's the different policies for identity protection. So it's what I use for all of my clients, including myself, my own company. And then there's the conditional access policies that everybody is aware of that we can go and use. And the identity protection intelligence, I can also use that within my conditional access policies. I hope that, in a nutshell, um, shows you the power of using the Microsoft intelligence for that little bit of security.
All right, Adnan. Moving on, could you give us an overview of the features available under the protection section of Microsoft Entra? Since today's topic is for us to focus proper on the protection features of Microsoft Entra.
Yes, well, under the protection section, you have identity protection. And identity protection is where we can use the signals and intelligence of the Microsoft security. If we have the premium P2 license, we can set up conditional access to formulate a condition to allow access based on certain requirements that we set. So, for example, somebody using a specific device from a specific network access point to get access to a specific data source or application or other company resource. We can utilize the Defender for Cloud Security Center to focus on identity and authentication requirements and help, where we can go and just follow the advice from Microsoft to strengthen our security. And then we have the Identity Secure Score. Once more, recommendations based on the identity set, and we just have to, follow the requirements. Multi-factor authentication is where we can specify or enable specific multi-factor authentication requirements, and then a number of different features. But basically, the real security help and tools are under identity protection, conditional access, and then just following the advice from Defender for Cloud and the Identity Secure Score.
Now, what actions can administrators take to protect and enforce additional security within their tenants?
Well, identity protection, I've spoken immensely about it, is like, never try and reinvent the wheel. So use the intelligence and the technology that Microsoft provides with identity protection, where they pretty much evaluate trillions of signals of authentications, billions of Microsoft accounts or identities living within Entra, so they evaluate if a signal is the right user during a specific sign-in, if it's coming from a valid request and not that it's coming from some hacker. So based on whether that account is maybe, I'm sitting here in the Netherlands. If somebody tries to log in with my account in Nigeria, the intelligence will know that can't be me because I'm using my account here right now. And as much as I'd love to travel and be there with you guys right now, the signal would know that's not me, and it would just flag it as a risk or a risky activity. So one of the ways in which it works, there's a number of different videos on YouTube that we've done in the past, but just to quickly go through is you set up your user risk policy and your sign-in risk policy, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, and then it will basically just show you if there are any risky users or sign-ins that's happened within your tenant. And then you can go and evaluate and make sure that those users are, following the right procedures, making sure that they are very careful with their devices, and not writing down passwords and things, and don't have easily guessed passwords.
Let's move on now, Adnan, to the ML features, right? The ML features that we have bundled with identity protection. So can you explain how machine learning algorithms are used to identify sign-in anomalies and prevent potential threats?
Yes, and for that, I'm going to go and open up my browser and go directly to the Learn page because they have a really nice, graph. So there's a number of different heuristic-based detections that's used by the algorithm that evaluates based on, if it's coming from an anonymous IP, if it's some hacker that's using a password spray or leaked credentials, because that's also one of the things that Microsoft want. If they find a registered identity that's, username, password, they'll notify you of that. That's why it's important to also have the, if you're doing the connected method, to always use the password hash, etc. So as this graph, you can see that there's auto-generated, expert-generated, and also end-user generated signals that they use. So based on whether it's a risky user, a risky sign-in, or risky application. And then based on those signaling and also set through the policies that I've shown, it can auto remediate, identify, or risk and either block or allow that authentication. So just scrolling down, I just want to show you the risk detections. So I just want to show you the detection methods used by the machine learning. So sign-in risk detections, things that I mentioned, password sprays, any suspicious behavior, whether the sign-in is coming from a new country. And this is all listed in Microsoft on the Learn documentation, so I'm not going to go and mention them all, but a number of different risk detections for sign-ins and also things for the user where, depending on threat intelligence, possible attempt to gain access to a refresh token. So those sort of man in the middle where tokens have been been abused, and any user-reported suspicious activity. So quite a number of detections in place for this protection.
Lastly, Adnan, what is Identity Secure Store and how does it aid administrators in enhancing their security stance?
Now, this is one of the best advice that I talk to with a lot of system administrators that are either new to working with cloud identities. It's a great way in which they can evaluate. Let me just go to my right tenant over here. The Identity Secure Score basically just has a percentage or score based on the number of settings, security settings that you've applied within your Entra Administrator Center based on the company that you are, evaluated against a similar type of company that requires X amount of security. And then there's a number of improvement items that you can go and follow. For example, here we have a specific action. For example, enable self-service password reset. So in the past, where somebody might have been in a risky situation, somebody might know the password. You want them to be able to change it themselves, right? So one of the actions, to just quickly drill down into that, is where you can find out what you need to do and also follow the step-by-step guidance to implement that action. So this is where you can really increase your security posture just by following the advice of Microsoft and thereby increasing your secure score percentage.
Awesome. Thank you, Adnan. Here's where we're going to wrap up on today's episode. But just before we wrap up, Adnan, is there any last words from you before we say bye-bye?
I just wanted to tell people to, start with secure score, work down those recommended actions, and follow the security center recommendations as well. And then you're pretty secure.
All right. It's a wrap on today's episode. Adnan and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.